The front squat to press involves performing a front squat and then pressing the barbell overhead in a synchronized movement. This movement emphasizes strength and stability. Common errors include dropping the elbows during the squat and hyperextending the spine during the press. As you can see in the video, I need to focus on synchronicity of the hips and the knees. It appears my knees are flexing before my hips and my upper body is having to compensate for this, making my weight fall forward. Front squat to push press incorporates a slight leg drive as you stand from the squat using a velocity component to press the barbell overhead. This makes it a power movement which transfers force vertically into the press. Common mistakes in this movement include insufficient leg drive turning it into a strict press or poor timing between the squat and the press. The push press uses leg-generated power and speed, while the front squat to press relies solely on upper body strength. In the first few repetitions that I complete, I need to work on synchronizing the movements and not dropping my elbows in the squat. This is a side-by-side comparison of the two movements. On the right is the front squat to push press with the velocity component, and on the left is the front squat to press. Here you can see the intent to move with speed in the exercise on the right, and the press on the left that comes strictly from upper body strength. A concentric only push press involves starting in a quarter squat position and using only the upward concentric phase to drive the barbell overhead without an eccentric component. This movement emphasizes muscle force of the upper body from the squat position since there is no elastic energy to use. Common errors include starting too low in the squat or failing to lock out the bar overhead. You want to make sure there is synchronicity and the elbows don't lower throughout the movement. The bar should be moving fast. Speed is necessary since this is a power movement. A regular push press uses the stretch shortening cycle, meaning it includes the eccentric phase. The stretch shortening cycle helps store elastic energy during the eccentric phase, allowing for greater drive and power as the bar drives upward across the kinetic chain. Common mistakes include squatting too deep or losing balance during the upward drive. In the first few repetitions of the movement, I was squatting too low, which creates a longer eccentric phase and works against the transfer of vertical energy. This is a side-by-side comparison of the two movements. The concentric only push press is on the right and the regular push press is on the left. Here you can see the concentric only push press takes longer to accomplish, mainly due to the pause before the concentric phase, but also because the movement relies on upper body force rather than stored elastic energy to move the bar vertically. These are a couple of Nordic variations you can do to strengthen the distal hamstrings. In a Nordic curl, you want to make sure that your ankles are secured in a dorsiflexed position so that the gastrocnemius doesn't experience any active insufficiency. From here, the torso is lowered down without any hyperextending of the lower spine, with the glutes and abdominals engaged with the hips extended. This exercise strengthens the distal hamstrings through eccentric loading, considering the athlete has sufficient strength to complete the movement. In a banded Nordic, a resistance band assists the Nordic curl by reducing the load placed on the hamstrings. There should be no hip flexion and the abdominals should be engaged to maximize hamstring engagement. This would be beneficial for someone still building the strength to complete a full Nordic curl since it is a little bit easier. A razor curl is similar to a Nordic but begins in a hinged position with the hips flexed. This creates more tension on the hamstrings and demands a greater range of motion. The goal is to keep the torso parallel to the ground while extending the hips and eccentrically using the hamstrings. With the proximal end of the hamstrings in a lengthened state in the beginning of the movement, there will be more force demands on the distal portion. This is a combination of the two exercises. You begin in a razor curl position and gradually transition to a full Nordic on the way up from the parallel floor position. You want to emphasize the engaged glutes and the abdominals on the concentric phase. This challenges the hamstrings through a full range of motion.